Now, arguably, I engaged with a couple of bits and pieces on Twitter where we were talking about the fight that you're most looking forward to. David Avanissian versus Josh Kelly for the European welterweight title was pretty high on a lot of people's lists. Now, it feels like we're still not going to get it because it's been put off so many times and it does feel somewhat cursed, but that's a brilliant fight, Avanesyan Kelly. It's arguably a better, more intriguing fight now than it ever has been, whether or not that's because we've been forced to wait for it and wait for it and wait for it. What are your thoughts on that fight?
It's a good fight, and it's a massive step up for Kelly. I know he's had the Robinson fight, which he got the draw. A great learning fight for him. And it was a fight too soon. That was a fight too soon. I think David got carried away, and rightly so, because he looked just fantastic. But I think his team got carried away, which is very rare for Adam Booth, to be fair. And he almost paid off. He didn't get beat, but I think it was just maybe that he probably looked back now and think maybe we should have maybe just had another sort of test just below that first. Aviation's another one. It's a real dangerous fight. I think I think a real dangerous fight. You can see Josh Kelly just putting on a beautiful performance of just wizardry and just making him miss and hitting him everywhere, and Avanesyan just being bashed up, not being able to land on the target. Or you can see an Avanesyan sitting on that back foot, stalking you down, patient with his work. Then you throw all these fancy shots because they're just, I'm half blocking them or they're missing, they're falling short. And when you commit, I crack you with that right hand. I hit you with that left hook. Because Avanesyan's not a devastating KO artist, but every punch he hits, like a lot of Eastern European type fighters, they punch right through the target and you feel every shot. And it puts a panic in your work and makes you second guess when you're going to throw a shot. Makes you second guess when you're doing your little moves. And that's what he'll try and do to Kelly. And so yeah, I'm struggling to pick a winner, to be honest. I think Avanesyan is a favourite. Should be a favourite. I don't know if he's a favourite in the bookies, but he should be the favourite.
I think it's pretty much
he should be
pick and fight with the bookies.
But he should be the big favourite because he's shown the quality, at worldish level, well, world level, and certainly European level. He's done that, and Kelly's still yet to show that, I think.
Do you think we're reading, or potentially people are reading slightly too much into his fights against Kerman Leharaga? Obviously, we've seen Leharaga in the past knock out Bradley Skeet. We've seen him knock out Frankie Gavin. But, I mean, he folded pretty quickly under Avanesyan. We've got his record up here. Avanesyan boxed him after being being stopped in 6 rounds by Mean Machine, which is a lot easier. I might make you say his name.
No, I can't say his name.
Kavliauskas, who, of course, boxed Terence Crawford, knocked Terence Crawford down, even though he didn't get credited for doing so. But since then, and that was in February of 2018, we've seen the 2 fights against Leharaga. Now, Leharaga going into the first fight was unbeaten, and myself and a lot of people over here had seen what he'd done to Bradley Skeet and what he'd done to Frankie Gavin. So that win, stopping him in 9 rounds, was a great win. Then went and knocked him out again in a round. Was Leharaga potentially somewhat overrated because of his exploits? We've seen, you're going through the list again, Surgeon Bombo went 8 rounds with David Avanesyan back in December of 2017. Lamont Peterson obviously beat him. Lamont Peterson, a good fighter, certainly a world level fighter over the years. But in the last sort of 2 years, it's 2 fights with Leharaga and Jose Del Rio, who sounds like a wrestler. But so yeah, I don't know. David Avanesyan, obviously he has competed at a high level. But I'm not sure whether or not people may be reading a little too much into those Leharaga fights. Well,
the thing that shows to me is not the quality because Josh Kelly's a different fighter, much better boxer than Lehara, but he went away from home.
This is a nightmare for you, isn't it? We've got Avanesyan, Leharaga, and Kavliauskas to discuss.
See, back in the 80s, you should have just gone where they were from, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the Spaniards.
Yeah, the Turk box, the Taff, and then we'll be all like that. Bloody PC. No, but seriously, so I think with Kermit, when he boxed Kermit, but he went away from there with no fear. That shows the thing. So there won't be. I know there's no crowds here now, but I don't think that would have made a difference with Avanesyan. So even they cared about that. I think he's tricky. I think he's patient with his work. I think this is the hardest fight for Josh Kelly. This is his hardest fight to date by a million miles.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a Josh Kelly fan. From the Olympics, I was a fan. Not just because you think of this, because he's a good-looking kid and his style. He wasn't as flashy as he has been with since he's been with Booth, but you could see all the good qualities he had. You thought whichever trainer you went with, he was going to be a talent. And I thought him and Boazzi they stood out for me. Like, I know Boazzi got the medal, but he was another one. I thought they just looked something. There's just something about him that you think could transfer to the pros and make him huge successes. I think that Josh Kelly has that. He does, and he has that little bit of X factor about him as well. But this is the test that's going to tell us. I think this is you can put on a fantastic. I said it already, a fantastic performance and run rings round him and just look so special, and wear him down, and he could bash him up over the rounds and stop him maybe. I don't know, but it's a risk. I think it's a really risky fight. They must know that. They're planning on Avanissian with the slow feet. But he slides into distance. He does close the distance down. He
cuts the ring off well.
Yeah, he does. He's not like, I know Kelly's got a beautiful footwork, but that wide stance as well as the rounds go on. That booth stance they have. I understand they have the wide stance, so you can get the arcs. You get a big arc on your movement, and you can push off and get more weight on your punches. I understand all that, but it also takes a lot of energy. Now, so Adam Booth has you fighting in bursts, so you conserve energy. But if another fighter is making you fight hard, making those bursts closer together, then you'll drain energy quicker. Like George Groves, they would get tired after a few rounds. David Tate, they would get tired as the rounds go on, like all fighters do. But their depletion of energy would be more dramatic, I felt.
And particularly based on a style that requires more energy to be effective as well.
But also with that, the positive of that is when they are full of energy, they're massively explosive and dangerous. I don't think Kelly has that explosive power. Neither does Michael Conlan, so he has two fighters there. See, I think Adam Booth used to pick fighters who could punch, and then he could work with them.
I was
athletic
just about
and
to
punch.
say, and it's kind of gone slightly away from that, even with like your Ryan Burnett's and people like that who have kind of come into the fold. I remember, I think it was the Joshua Parker undercard where you had Josh Kelly, I think Carlos Molina, and Ryan Burnett against somebody else, and they both boxed virtually identical fights over 12 rounds. And even if you didn't know, you could probably say that they're trained by the same fighter, trained by the same trainer that night. It was a real, Booth boxing, the Booth boxing
There's
style.
that little twitchy move with the head, and you see with Shannon Corner, you see they all look the same, don't they? But,
Harlem Eubank.
Yeah, but it's who boxed really well.
Really well against Dane Darko, really well.
And but that little move with the head's hard to read. Everything disguises their movements. That low left hand, you can read the jab. It's all to disguise the movement, and then obviously that low stance, that low centre of gravity is to push up with power for the shots.
And also what you were saying about it requiring that energy. I mean, I remember Josh Kelly. I can say what I want because I was there. I remember in New York for Joshua Ruiz won, and there was a lot of rumors around his weight around the fight week, and there was a lot of rumors that he was struggling to make the weight. I'm going to go look at his record now, but I think he debuted at 156 and then 151, and he's boxed at 153, 154. So he's kind of that 150 pound fighter, like in between a welter and a super welter.
Well, there's a gap there for another Walter.
Oh, don't give anybody any bloody ideas, Barry. And we saw in the Ray Robinson fight, he didn't fight 3 minutes of each round, which is not necessarily his style anyway. He's never going to throw 100 punches around. But we saw him, he was backed up into the corner in that fight. He was, didn't let his hands go. And if you allow David Avanissian to get into a rhythm on the front foot, and, I think Josh Kelly needs to set the tone early in that fight. I don't think he can just go in there and run rings around him and run around the ring. I do feel like he's going to need to land something early just to let David Avanissian know that he's dangerous and he can't just walk him down. Because if it's that type of fight, and we've seen in the past with Josh Kelly that potentially, there's no maybe about it. He is big for 147 pounds, and it gets into those championship rounds against an experienced campaigner like an Avanissian, and that could really be where the fight's won or lost.
No, most definitely. I think it's all about angles with Kelly, because he'll stay low and he'll throw the shot. He won't throw him straight shots, square shots coming from the shoulders. They'll come from different angles, and he'll want to catch when Avanissian commits. Then it'll be that moving the angle, throwing the screw shot, if you like, or an uppercut, and trying to hit the head up to hit it across with a hook. That's what he'll look for. But it's a fight. It's a really intriguing fight, and I'm still not sure I want to put my money on.
Come on.
Are we going to put my money on somebody?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to say Kelly then, because I'm always favoured the boxer, but it's his biggest test, and I'm not confident with it at all. And I mean, he's ready for the European title fight. I think that much. And the champion is who the champion is. You have to fight him, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair to say that Avanissian's probably slightly above European level. And he's got unfortunate in the sense of his boxing. You know, the European title isn't what it used to be, and he's probably boxing somebody who's slightly above European level, as opposed to a lot of fighters who are fighting European champions are potentially slightly below European level.
But this is a good fight. This is not. It's not. I saw like, it's a dangerous fight, but so it should be a dangerous fight for the European title. And he comes through this, whether it's a masterclass or a tight fight.
I think any win is a good win here.
Then it puts him in the shop window then for the world title fight. Most definitely, it puts him right up there where it should be. And I wouldn't chuck him in with the world title straight away, but I mean, it puts him there because then you need these tests to show what you're worth. So you know what you can do. So you know what you got inside you, and so other people who are around you know as well.
Another fight that's gained quite a little bit of attention on that card, Florian Marku and Ryland Charlton.
Yeah.
Interesting fight. Now, first off, Florian Marku's last fight against Jamie Stewart, I think it was on the AJ undercard, the AJ Pulev undercard. What did you make of that fight?
You could say he got exposed. I thought he won, to be honest.
I thought he won.
I thought he won. So yeah, done by. But you can also say that in many ways he might have got exposed. And I sort of would agree with that and say no as well, because he fights in straight lines, like ridiculously in straight lines. But what happens is you do something and it works. So he works off work rate and strength, and it's always enough. And that's all I need to do. I'll just keep walking forward, throwing shots at you, and I'll wear you down. You can't take the power. He's not a knockout artist, but he's weighty.
Heavy-handed, yeah.
But you need more than that as you step up. But I think he can. I don't know why I've seen he haven't shown it, but there's something about him. I think he could box a bit better, a little bit. I don't think he's going to be the smartest of fighters ever. He's not going to be a Josh Kelly mover, but I think he could get a bit more lateral movement and a few more disguises before he throws the shots, a few feints here and there. That's what he needs, doubling up the jab sometimes and just changing the angle when he throws it after he throws the first shot. Just take a little step to the side. He can do that, but only if you've learned from the other fights. Even you need to have learned from that Stewart fight to realise, no, I need to do a bit more against Ryland Charlton. Otherwise, he's just gonna walk right in front of somebody who's willing to throw lots of punches back.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of makes this fight so appealing and intriguing. We saw what Ryland Charlton did to Joe Laws, who, regardless of what you think of Joe Laws, to get him out of there in the style that he did, he was ruthless in that fight. It really went through Joe Laws without much problems at all. And you would think that their styles are just going to gel for two guys who are going to walk straight at each other and let the big shots go, which is great for us.
It's going to be really. It's a really good fight, and it's a fight where really you don't really know how good either one is. That's the thing. That's the good thing about that. No, Ryland Charlton, you tend to think it was an upset against
Joe Laws.
Because we knew Joe Laws, we didn't know him. That's all that is. That happens sometimes. You earn your trade around the peripherals of the major players, and no one knows who you are. But obviously, he's undefeated, good kid. How good's Marco as well? He's had more exposure than him, but we just still don't know. See, but the only thing that all we know is that Marco in his last fight showed us was not exposed, but
some limitations.
Yeah, some limitations there. That's so. But I think he can work on them. That's the difference. I think he can.
Working with Clifton Mitchell now as well. He was working with Don Charles. He's now working with Clifton Mitchell.
Why is he going? Why is a welterweight going working with heavyweights? I'm only joking. That's irrelevant. See, Clifton Mitchell was a good fighter. I mean, better than what you remember him. To be fair, like I don't know what he's like as a trainer. I don't know. I'm sure he's really good, but he was a good fighter and a good mover for the heavyweight. So it depends on you can only work with what you got, and rapport is the most important thing as a good trainer and fighter. But he has to loosen Marku up a little bit.
Yeah, certainly he's still. I mean, I don't think it would come as a surprise to anybody if they didn't know that Florian Marku comes from a kickboxing background. Yeah. He's got very much that squared on kickboxer style. Even when he throws a jab, he kind of throws it from here as opposed to throwing it from there, which again will lead to a great fight, I think, between him and Ryland Charlton. Over 10 rounds as well. I can't see that going 10 rounds considering the way that they both fight. Particularly Marku, loads up on the big shots, and can he do 10 rounds against somebody who's coming back at him and throwing big shots as well? It's going to be a really interesting fight, that.
It's cracking. Again, that might be the one that... like I said, the last one, it might not be the top of the bill. That steals the show. Because that over 10 rounds, I don't think it goes early, though. I think someone might be worn away.
Yeah, I don't see it
hurt
going,
and then like fatigued really quickly.
But I don't see it going 10, but I certainly don't see a couple of rounds either way.
Which is great, isn't it, really?
Rematch. We love a rematch here on the social. Amy Timlin against Carly Skelly. Now, their first fight was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was Amy Timlin was the first time I'd seen Amy Timlin box. I thought Amy Timlin boxed very well in stages of that fight, but Carly Skelly was very tough, like very rugged coming forward. And I expect a really good fight in that. I think the first fight was really good. It was a good blend of styles. And why not put them in there? As good as 2020 was, particularly for female boxing. And, it still doesn't have the depth. And if you've got two dance partners who have had a good fight and it's come to a draw, then I think throwing them back in is a really good idea. And hopefully it picks up from the first fight.
Yeah, you think so, but you tend to think the scope for improvement is for Timlin.
Yeah.
That's because of the box. You always say that with the boxer. That's sort of not sort of disparaging to Skelly, and to every aggressive fighter, because you don't see them as technically as good, so you tend to think the other person can improve. But so they can improve as well. They can get lower. Step to just throw more feints before you jump in with like a lunatic. Move on the body more when you got them under pressure. There's things they can improve on, but I think Timlin would, if she can improve on, because she's technically better. And so the thing with women with this is not women's boxing in general. With this, it's the strength in the jab. That's the problem for Timlin. That there's a jab, but it's not enough strength in it, and it can be broken down quite easy. So that's what it is, and it don't mean she lacks the strength in her upper body. So you got to step with the legs when you throw the jab. I think that's something that she maybe should be working on, because you can still step with the jab and still keep the movement, because you're still on the ball to your foot. Just it's like what Tommy Hearns used to do. You have your left foot forward, but then when you throw the jab, you bring the heel to the sides. You square your foot off, and that's like a step, and that'll give you a bit more weight in the shot. Tommy Hearns used to do it. But then you can also take the move off to the left, because your foot's already positioned for you to spin off. As long as you keep a little weight on the balls of your feet. That's a free lesson. Thank you very much.
I'll bear that in mind. I'll bear that in mind next time I'm looking to circle off after I throw a jab. Robbie Davis Jr. returns against Gabriel Golas Valenzuela. We won't make you say that one, Barry. We'll leave you off of that one. Robbie Davis, another guy who I wouldn't say this is, well, every fight is must win for all fighters, but he's had a couple of losses now. If he's looking at kind of advancing with his career, he needs to look good in that fight. And again, at 140 pounds, there's a lot of interesting fights domestically for Robbie Davis Jr. out there. Your Hara Davises of the world, and I know that fight with Lewis Ritson was a brilliant fight. I wouldn't mind seeing them fight. Well, wouldn't mind seeing that again. Good opportunity for Robbie Davis Jr. to put himself back in the mix at 140 pounds.
Yeah, but it is. But it's funny because he beats Ritson. And we're talking about world titles because he had a good rating. So, and all of a sudden now we're saying, can he stay in the mix? He's a talent. He is a talent. I think he's good. He's nice, good work rate, good weight in his shots. He got a nice loose style. Nothing like his dad. His dad was a real brawler, big puncher. But but a better amateur than Robbie, of course. But yeah, so it's a hard division to break through. That's the problem, isn't it? Where you're looking. Either way, you get a good win here. Your next fight is again that other fight where it's, do you step up or do you step down a couple of levels? That's the problem there. It's such a division steeped in quality. And
you've also got all of those 135 pounders knocking on the door to come up as well.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
not
hard,
really fun.
But you can't. But you just got to put yourself in the window. That's all, and take the fights. And be fair to Robbie Davis, he'll take that fight. He'll take whatever fight he's got for him. That's it. So I think I'd like to see the rematch. To be honest, but with Ritson, will want now. You want to think he can move on. So, but I think it's a.
I'd like to see Ritson box Miguel Vasquez again.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I don't. Well, Miguel Vasquez with the same management company now, so you never know. We'll definitely see Miguel Vasquez boxing somebody soon, getting robbed blind somewhere. We'll see it. And finally on that card, Johnny Fisher. Don't know an awful lot about Johnny Fisher, I must say.
No, I haven't seen him.
Another. Well, it's his debut, Barry.
No, but I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in the amateur circuit. Or anything like that. So,
well, we'll just leave it then, shall we?
No, it's good.
No, I'm joking.
Heavyweight process. It's funny with heavyweights because it's different to every other weight.
Mm.
So you can feed them knockover jobs for a long time. That's the difference with heavyweights.
Yeah.
But they'll do that now because they've been in a generation of fast tracking everybody. But with heavyweights, you can take your time a bit more with them. So, and it's always a bit of excitement when you got a young kid knocking people over. No, so was he 6'5" or something?
The big fella.
Yeah, knocking people over and stuff. And that's what you want to see to get you excited about him while he's learning his trade in the gym.
He fights Matt Gordon, who is 2-5-1. Stopped by David Adelaide in a couple of rounds, and stopped by Doran Krasmaru, who boxes out of Peacock, the Ukrainian chap.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So those are his kind of form guides. So you would expect Johnny Fisher to come through that and look good on his professional debut.